So the Theta ULS,
The advanced Theta ULS.
sits between the EPSILON DLS and the IOTA DLS. So the EPSILON DLS is the low B and the IOTA DLS is the high B, and the Theta is a ultralight mid B. So in terms of build quality, again we've had a really good look over the Theta, and the way to describe the quality is advanced. It's kind of, they've made for themselves a word on their own. There's like high quality and advanced. All of the construction, everything looks absolutely beautiful and really well made. Rods of the wing are all nitinol, so which makes total sense for an ultralight wing, but it is made to be very, very solid, isn't it? Very and well performing, and yeah, so that makes it even easier and more compact to pack. So the lines are fully unsheathed except for the main brake line and the stabilo line, the short part of that. You can see there they've clearly prioritised again ultralight weight and performance. So the lines are, yeah, all the other lines, the A's, the B's, the C's and the upper lines, they're all unsheathed.
It comes with an inner bag and essentially what I call a product pack. So it's a little bag that has usually it's an advanced windsock and some stickers and a little sort of quick start manual. But
I think it also includes a riser bag.
Oh, you're right. Yes.
Yeah, little riser bags.
Yes,
and they don't have a compression strap because they've worked out the way that you pack it. They feel like you don't need a compression strap
with the inner bag.
But they do have a riser bag, and the idea is then that helps stop your risers getting caught up in your lines.
Yeah. Lovely quality, definitely on the thinner side.
They're quite skinny, yeah.
Yeah, quite skinny. Still very usable and relatively easy to use. I think one criticism I have is, so the brakes have a little black popper. And I don't know whether it's just my coordination particularly today, but yeah, taking that on and off wasn't working so well for me today.
Obviously they work perfectly fine, a little bit more fiddly, but they're the lightest option.
Yeah. And the other thing about the risers, no mayons, it's soft links with nice little covers over the soft links.
Yeah, they're very tightly finished, aren't they?
Yeah, and all the sleeves, I think, you know, they're the right length to cover over the soft link. No sort of, I wasn't having any issue with them sliding down.
It happens on a lot of gliders, doesn't it? Quite a few gliders. And the risers also have on them a BC bridge system with pulleys, and that adds a little bit, again, I think that's part of the thing that adds a little bit of complexity to the handling. And we've been testing some other gliders recently that don't have a BC bridge, and it is quite noticeable that on the ground they are just simpler to handle and easier. Watching you kiting around, you looks like you're having really fun with it. You're popping the glider up and playing around with it.
Yeah, it's playful with that. So I mean, with the advanced Theta, building the wall, very easy. I think because it is a lighter wing, I would say it's got a very slight, and it's again a nitpick, just because it's a lighter wing, just has a little tendency for the trailing edge just to catch the wind, depending on the wind strength, etc. But so it does have that, but very manageable with using the back risers. So and that I reached for that straight away, and as soon as you've got the back risers, the glider's coming round nicely and you can hold it there. Very manageable and actually really nice. The glider then sits really well.
I found exactly the same. It feels really sorted. I mean, you know, the way it inflates, the way it comes up, how controllable it is, and responsive. It just feels, it's kind of hard to fault, really. So talking about launching, when we were launching in a light wind, so when the wind's very light, nil or light wind, it's just super easy.
Yeah. And
the lift off is, you take off, because the glider comes up really nicely and then sits above you, doesn't have a tendency to overfly or pitch about and roll around. The lift off seems to be really easy. That's what I found.
Definitely a very easy, manageable glider to get into the air. So I think in generally all the different wind conditions I've flown the Theta in, I've found the glider easy to manage, and it responds well.
It's particularly easy in the lighter conditions. That's when it's super easy. It's a glider you can be very confident to forward launch and with a nil or tailwind and things like that. But even in strong conditions, you've got that bit more management with the width of the wind. But because it just comes up very easy and easy to control, I found it easy. But you just found a little bit of care thinking about the level of pilot, that you don't like just pull it up, because then it will come up a bit quick.
Yeah.
Having said that, if you do that, I mean, if you do it really hard and it's strong, you're going to get plucked and dumped. But that's going to happen on almost every wing.
Yeah.
And but I think it's if you do that, it's relatively forgiving and easy to manage.
If you are launching in a strong windy conditions, then you're not going to be throwing the glider into the air. You're definitely going to be wanting to control it up and get it through the wind window in a progressive manner rather than quickly through it. So yeah.
You know, the way that the Alpha flies, the Epsilon and the Theta and the IOTA and even the Sigma, you can tell they're from the same house.
Yes.
You know, the feeling and of the way they launch and inflate, and the handling and everything is definitely similar, just kind of moving up in the ranges. I mean, it really does feel to me like the Theta is right between the Epsilon and the IOTA, and I actually did feel like the gap between the Epsilon and the IOTA, it's okay. For a lot of pilots that will be okay, but for some pilots it's a little bit of a jump.
Yeah.
So I think it fits really nicely, and I think the handling feels quite similar to the Epsilon DLS, but it just feels like it just has a bit more energy and a bit more speed and a bit more bite.
Yeah.
So I was actually finding the handling really good. You know, thermaling with others, I generally felt it reminded me of the Phi Beat 2. It's got that really sharpness and playfulness that you can turn, and I felt like with other gliders on higher performance wings, a lot of the time I felt like I could turn inside them, and the glider itself was really, you know, able to do that.
Yeah. Yes, I think it has got the agility. Yes, I think that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not. It hasn't got that sort of like sporty build up of energy. It's kind of. It's still very reassuring and kind of easy and forgiving feeling.
The feeling I had today, the air was lumpy and throwing you around a little bit, but the glider was giving me a good sort of reassurance about it. But also where the little thermals were sort of punching through, I was finding that I could actually get the glider to nicely go round in some of those little sort of punchy, snotty bits. The brakes are a little on the longer side. The brakes
are set a little bit on the longer side.
Yeah.
So they're certainly not short. When you've got a glider with short brakes, it's really good for nippy handling and turning. But when you're fiddling about, if you want to fiddle about and do stuff on a long cross-country flight, then yeah, that tends to mean you're either going to let go of the brakes or something like that. And yeah, I don't think they're not very long.
No.
But for me, I mean, actually straight away from launch, I found that as I took off, I was going to the normal half wrap. So it was kind of, you can fly with your hands just in touristy position, but then the brakes feel a little bit on the long side.
Yeah.
But then if you do that half wrap, then it feels perfect. Just like you see with the Epsilon DLS and the IOTA DLS, the Theta climbs really well. It does really well in light stuff. And I think it's got a very good glide, and it's got a tendency to sniff out the lift and cut into the lift nicely, so you can find those weak thermals. It gives very good feedback. So you just, as usual, put your hands up, let the glider fly, don't over input, and then it really gives you nice feedback, but at the same time very comfortable. And then you can turn it really quite tightly, but flatly.
Yes. Yes, actually, yeah, flatly it does. Yes, it doesn't have a tendency to sort of roll in and really sort of crank round. So yes, it's kind of slightly softer on that feeling. Yes.
Yeah, and I found you can sniff out the bit of lift, and when you hit a nice bit, you can turn very quickly. It's got a responsive, quick handling. It's not super sporty or anything like that, but it's got very direct and yeah, quite immediate handling, so you can turn very quick, but at the same time it doesn't turn quick just by having lots of roll and being inefficient. The thermals weren't super strong, but they were very kind of tight cores, and you could really see the difference. If you were able to turn really well in the tight cores, then you could outclimb the pilots around you who weren't. And the Theta is really good for that. I think it's going to work. It's a glider that's going to cope really well with very strong conditions. And obviously, depending on the conditions you're in, you can fly it lighter or heavier. I think I was flying it, I was in the optimum part of the weight range, but I think it was only about 2/3 of the way up there in the weight range. And yeah, just because it's got this very sharp, direct and precise feeling handling, as I went round and I found the cores, I could adjust and get round and turn when I wanted to, right on the tighter cores. And then if I wanted to readjust, it was all very good like that. So I think it copes really well in the strong conditions too.
Yeah, all rounder. I think it's got very nice general handling, and very well suited in the mid B feeling of the glider. Yes.
Yeah, and the performance feels very, very good. I mean, the climb performance feels very good. It doesn't feel that dissimilar to me to very good, the best high Bs like the IOTA DLS. It doesn't feel that dissimilar. And from what I can see flying with others, I was actually flying with James, who we know climbs really well on his Sigma 11, which we know handles and climbs really well. And other than him flying really well, I felt like he didn't seem to have a great advantage, if any advantage, over me, and the other pilots around didn't seem to have an advantage, so it does seem to climb really well. The performance is really excellent, and it's not far off, like the Phoebe 2, it's really not far off a high B wing, and it's only really that top bit of speed that you've got a bit less, and you've got very, very close to that. So that's something definitely think about. If you're from a low B and you're thinking of upgrading, we'd definitely consider looking at these mid B gliders like the Theta ULS and the Phoebe 2. And yeah, consider those, because you get almost as good performance as them, but with definitely more safety, lower pilot demands, both on the ground and in the air. Did you get to fly next to others to sort of and just see how the trim speed felt?
No.
Yeah, I felt like I had a good opportunity, and I was gliding with others and also just checking the trim speed. I think for a mid-B, I think it's got a good trim speed, comparable to the other mid-B wings. There aren't so many mid-B wings, most tend to be low B and high B, but I think it's, as far as trim speed, you don't even feel slow really flying with the high B gliders. But yeah, trim speed, it feels good, and also it's got that, the way it is, it's got a tendency to want to cut forwards and bite through the air. It doesn't have a tendency to keep getting knocked back. It's very nice and pitch stable, but I'd say with a slight tendency to want to cut through.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It definitely feels like it's cutting through the air nicely. Don't feel like it's hanging back.
So using the speed system, first of all, the speed system is relatively light. The actual travel is quite short. Well, it's not very short, but it's not long. Some other wings have definitely got longer travel on them. The point is, I was very easily able to get full speed bar, and I still kind of like had more to go on the speed system, but I managed to get the pulleys locked together, so that worked really well. And the glider picks up a good amount of speed. The acceleration over trim, bear in mind we're flying almost at sea level, is around 12 kilometers an hour, maybe, I'd say round about 12 to maybe 14 kilometers an hour. But it felt like a nice and good increase of speed. It keeps its glide very, very well. The sink rate doesn't go up much as you accelerate. And the glider is super solid. There is no dimpling at all and no flutter. And the glider is really, really solid. Just thinking about the fully accelerated speed, that's where, for example, the best high Bs, like the IOTA DLS, I think they do have a bit more top speed. So that's the one difference you see, is that the Theta is not quite as fast, fully accelerated from my testing so far, as say the IOTA DLS and other top performing high Bs. How did you feel about the glider in terms of general stability, safety, passive safety?
I think that, yeah, I think as a mid-B glider, it's sitting very well for that. I think you've got comfortable handling. We talked already about the ease of use on the ground, and it certainly, you have that in the air as well. So it's easy to use. It feels good. It communicates, but not overly so. And yeah, it's a nice amount of stability.
Yeah, and it's very confidence inspiring. I felt the way the glider feels so solid and nicely pitch stable and communicating well. It feels just really solid, comfortable, confidence inspiring. And I think it's definitely a glider that, even flying in really sporty, strong stuff, it's going to be really well behaved and very comfortable to fly.
Putting the big ears in is easy. They're not pulling, it's not physical, it's not hard. So perfect for its class, really nice. It's something that as a mid-B pilot you'd want to use. And yeah, they come in well and a decent size, without sort of having to faff about with taking on more lines. So just the reaching up and grabbing, you get a good sized big ears, and are stable, no flapping about. And then when you want to release, they just gently roll out. So very nice and easy, very usable, and yeah, something to reach for when you need it.
Yeah, I found exactly the same. Easy to identify, easy to pull in, not physical, easy to hold. One time they are a little bit flappy, but always well behaved and manageable. Seem to give you a nice descent rate. I did actually do also tip stalls a couple of times, and it does do them. When you do the tip stalls, it's very important to reach up nice and high. Don't pull down near the mayon. Reach up nice and high, and then when you pull them out and down like that. And the Theta does them really well. And as usual, tip stalls are more on the physical side. They're definitely quite a bit more pressure than doing the big ears. But relatively speaking, they are actually quite easy to pull for tip stalls. And yeah, they came in nicely, very effective, very stable, a slightly higher descent rate than you get with big ears. And of course the major benefit you have with tip stalls is when you let go, they just pop out. Yeah, so the Theta is very controllable, very easy. I mean, it's one of those ones, no surprises, nothing to report. It spirals very nicely. It's very controlled, so you can really build up go into your spiral progressively as you want. I found I was trying it to go kind of slowly at first and then build up, or go in fast, and you can do either. I didn't find any tendency for the glider to kind of lock into a spiral or anything like that. And also it wasn't kind of, some gliders it's kind of hard to spiral. It was, yeah, nice and easy to get into the spiral, good increase of speed, good descent rate, and as you expect, build up of G's, but all very good. The exit, it's better of course to bleed off the speed, but the Theta is very forgiving, I found.
So, and also on your lovely flight today, did you get a chance to do some collapses, and tell us about those?
Indeed. I did actually have one real collapse at one point, which is, well, I mean, it was just the tip folded in and popped out again. So I did, oh, exciting. But yeah, on that note, I think the Theta is very collapse resistant, so it's very resistant to collapses. And I also found that when I was inducing collapses, it's quite resistant. Surprising with the big ears, because they were easy to put in.
Yeah.
But actually inducing collapses, particularly for frontals, it was a bit more on the physical side. It was quite yeah, resistant. So I did several asymmetric collapses. Yeah, so you can see the glider that's where the difference with the Epsilon and the Theta is. It's kind of definitely feels like it's a bit more dynamic, a bit less than the IOTA and a bit more than the Epsilon, as you'd expect. So yeah, pulling in the collapses, the glider did then turn it more than they'd say the Epsilon DLS does, and I think most low Bs, although some low Bs are actually a bit more dynamic than you expect. So yeah, for a mid B, I thought it was very well behaved. I think the Phi Beat 2 is slightly better behaved. It's really very, very easy, really like a low B, but the Theta feels like right for a mid B. How did you feel from the testing? How does it compare to the gliders in its range, the competition, and just in how you felt like it was performing compared to them?
I feel the advanced Theta performs very well for a mid B. I think you've got this all-round feeling with the glider. So you've got this easy ground handling, launching glider, and then when you're in the air, it feels very good and very easy. But I think in the general sort of performance of it as well against others, you're doing well. I mean, they're flying with high Bs and also other higher rated wings, and you don't feel like you're losing out. So again, it's that sort of confidence inspiring glider.
Do you think it's suitable for a pilot out of school, like a new pilot?
No. But so you're a pilot that's been flying a little while, you feel like you've outflown it. You've been flying an A-rated wing, you've flown the socks off your A, and you're looking for a step up. And if you feel like you don't want to go to the epsilon, the safe end of the B, then you could consider the mid B. And it is definitely for those pilots who are wanting a bit more than their low B. So perhaps you might be a pilot that started with a low B, and you want that bit of a progression on, but you're not ready for the high B. You want just that little bit extra than what you've got from your low B, and moving on to the mid B. And then of course it's the pilots who are flying less than they were. They've taking a bit of a time out and feel like they need to come down from what they were flying. They want a bit more relaxed, and they want a lightweight glider, and they're going to be perhaps weekend flyers, perhaps popping off to the Alps for a bit of hike and fly. Then that would be a nice wing, wouldn't it, to have as a mid B, comfortable glider, good performance, looking after me while I'm doing my hike and fly in the mountains.
Absolutely, yes, I agree.
Can you say any negatives? What would be negatives about the advanced Theta?
Well, one thing that could be seen to be a little bit negative is the brakes are a little bit on the longer side. Agreed. But then again, so if you just fly in the tourist position or holding down, you'll find the brakes feel a little on the longer side.
Yeah.
But then again, I think it's not really a negative, because it seems to me they're set up to do that half wrap. So to do the half wrap, you put hands in the toggles and wrap half round like that, and half around your hand, and then that feels like a perfect position.
And I think my little niggle would just be the brake handle poppers, and that's just purely a personal preference of I was finding it fiddly, so I wasn't in a fiddly mood.
But other than that, no, not really. I mean, they do cost a bit more, so it's so that's an aspect of it, but I think you get the quality, the build quality you get, and also in the long term the resale is, from what we find with our advanced wings, keeps really well. So in the short term they definitely cost more, but I think in the long term
it's an investment.
So all in all, it's an all-round very nice package. The construction is fantastic, the build quality and all the materials are all amazingly well made. It packs really small, and it's got the nitinol rods, so you can pack it easier and tighter. Really nice all-round launch, isn't it? Yeah. Great performance, very nice handling, and very good climb and good all-round performance in all conditions. So yeah, very good all-round package, isn't it, really? Yeah, absolutely. And really enjoyable to fly too. Very fun. Yes, very fun, enjoyable flight. Well, that's it for our first impressions of the advanced Theta ULS. I hope you've enjoyed that, or we hope you've enjoyed that. It's our first impressions plus. First impressions and a bit more. So as always, do check out flybubble.com. We've got a great range of new gear for you: wings, harnesses, reserves, etc. Have a fun browsing. And we also have a great range of used gear, including ex-test gear that we've been testing in excellent conditions. So grab yourself an amazing bargain with nearly new equipment. As always, if you're looking for expert advice on which gear to buy, then check out our match service, which then we can help you choose, make sure you get the right wing, harness and reserve, including the right size. And go and have a look on our website. If you enjoy the videos we do, it really helps us if you hit the like button, add some comments down below, give us some feedback, sign up to the channel. Bye!
Bye!